Welcome all to the In My Opinion Show with Ronald Berry Robinson and friends. Please see us on the YouTube. Type in the In My Opinion Show, and you will be able to connect with all of our programs. We have in the neighborhood of almost 200 shows up so far via YouTube. I want to welcome our millions of guests worldwide, and especially my very talented co-host, Miss Jackie Williams.
Thank you.
And Mr. Henry Hatter.
Thank you, Ron. And today I want to look like my favorite governor, Rick Snyder, without my tie.
Okay. I think perhaps, Mr. Hatter, you might have chose a different person because he's on his way out of office. All right, and in fact, he's going to get kicked out of office. All right, for his malfeasance and anything else you can bring up, especially as a result of this poisoning of thousands, tens of thousands of people in Flint, Michigan and surrounding areas, as well as those ones that have already left Flint, college students, different employees, employers, okay, that have exited this. But let's get to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The act was designed to prevent voter discrimination of all kinds and ensure that every American has equal access to the ballot box. Without it, we've already seen reports of unconstitutional voter purges, restrictive early voting, and the intentional spread of false information by major political parties. When the Supreme Court stripped Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act, it has become a national disgrace. All right, even Julian Bond, the noted lawyer, politician, and Southern Poverty Law Center president before his passing. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, by a 5-4 vote, the Supreme Court freed 9 states under Section 4, mostly in the South, to change their election laws without advance federal approval, because those 9 states had to get federal approval before they did anything as far as voting changes were needed, as they claim. As a result, almost daily, we are witnessing discrimination in many more than 9 states. Section 4, without it, pre-clearance by the federal government is powerless. States are allowed to do as they please. Let's restore Section 4 to stop the lies, the purging, the false information, and the gerrymandering, and all the rest of that foolishness that the states have insisted that were falsely that were happening in their states. Jackie, what's your thoughts?
I'm just very disappointed in our Supreme Court because they even struck it down. Because if they had really looked at the literature, they would have seen there was many cases that used as an example that this law was still relevant when they struck it down. So I don't know what analysis and what information they used to show that it wasn't relevant. But I would show you right now in North Carolina, they're suffering big time because what they did was they went through and they took, they just mailed just some casual mail to over 400,000 residents. And if the mail came back, they took it to the clerk to have them purged. And it was a lady that stood out. She was 100 years old. She had not moved in like 50 years. And they purged her name and she fought for it. But some people didn't fight for it. So they were able to purge it. And they even have another list that's going forward on Monday to be purged. But the law says that 90 days prior to an election, there should be no purging or moving of the roll. So it's in violation. So they have lawsuits filed. So they did do, the judge did rule against them and tell them to restore it. But in order to restore it back in a couple of days, I don't know if they'll be able to meet that deadline.
And also I think a lot of these states, regardless of where they're located, the North or the South, And when it deals with African Americans, okay, the 13th Amendment of the Constitution abolished slavery and was ratified on December 6, 1865. My question is, why hasn't the federal government used their powers and stepped up? Okay, federal power supersedes state power. What I don't understand, why the federal government has not stepped up, the Justice Department, and stopped this foolishness. Okay, if it's a law, you know what I mean, or amendment, regardless, then it shouldn't be happening. And over 150, 60 years later, all right, after it was ratified. Mr. Hatter, what is your thought?
Well, this is certainly a complex discussion for me. First of all, in all my years of voting, I have never been suspicious of the voting system. Never. I've never had any experiences. I've always had to, my wife and I have always had to show our IDs. It was a thing. They do that today. I have absolutely no objection. I feel that in my community there's no monkey business going on with the voting. There may be, and I may not know, I don't see it, and maybe you guys see it, and you need to convince me that it's going on. But otherwise, I would be just whistling Dixie. And a lot of this that's dealing with gerrymandering and stuff like that, that is not the function of the federal government. That's the function of a political party that's in power. If they want to gerrymander jurisdictions, they can do so. Both the Republicans and Democrats do that. But I don't see how that's got anything to do with voting.
But it has everything to do with voting, because if you gerrymander a certain area and stuff, you cut out a segment of society, all right?
But you
to benefit, all right, the people that are doing the gerrymandering, whether they're in Congress or federal government or state government. So when you cut out a segment, all right, of that state or that particular group, then that in itself is unlawful.
Well, Ron, I don't really think that gerrymandering is done in this circumstance. I know it's done in a lot of cases based upon race to carve out people in segments and put them in concentrated areas. But in this case, I don't see the benefits of gerrymandering a community to affect the voting rights.
But think about what you're saying. Think about what you're saying, because what they said was they did a special on MSNBC, and what they said was they don't just pick a place. They pick high concentrated areas where the vote is, whether they need to persuade the Democrats or the Republicans, whichever way, and that's the one is hit. Yeah. So they went and they purposely sought out the areas that had high...
Who is they?
I don't know, the Republican governor.
Okay.
Because the governor
it has to be the legislature. And it starts in political parties, local political party. And each district, like I am, for example, the Trump chairman of the 5th Congressional District, which I have no authority to act in the case that we're talking about right now. But those particular jurisdictions have established their own gerrymandered structures that must be approved by the state.
But we have to look at their ideology. You know what I mean? For doing this gerrymandering, okay. Let's take for instance this. Here in the state of Michigan, all right, they ship thousands of prisoners up north, all right, where the population is small, and they count those prisoners as residents, okay. They also get more federal dollars, all right, based upon population, all right. Therefore, they can just about put anybody in office that that's in power, all right, they can put them in office, all right, because or
I mean, the
or
prisoners can put them in office.
population wise.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
but
all right.
but there's a positive.
Federal, especially federal office holders.
Okay, let's look at this from another point. This gerrymandering business. If they move a segment of the population out of high density areas into low density areas, it is diminishing the exposure of danger to a high populated area. Stop and think about it. You were on the prison board or worked in it, and you know how that works.
No, it doesn't
This is
impact.
what-
It, no, I don't agree with that at all. It doesn't.
But it
impact-
does.
It doesn't. Impact.
And they don't want them around schools, and they don't want them around hospitals,
that's-
stuff like that. Gerrymandering is a powerful tool to do some things that are good.
They stick prisoners in places nowhere up there. There's hardly any
they're isolated from people.
That's not the case. All right.
But that's one of the intents.
No, it's not. The intent is to get more money.
Yeah, that
All
too.
right, that's the biggest intent. It's not to hide them or take them out of from people. All right, that's got nothing to do with it.
If in your area right now, if the state decided, well, I'm going to put a prison right down the middle of Ron's district, what do you think the response from your?
Nothing, nothing, because they got two.
Okay.
They got two.
What do you
know
think
what I
would
mean?
happen if they decided
got-
to do that in Clio
They got
or Flushing or
Nothing.
Goodrich or Grandson?
They're gonna holler, certainly they're gonna holler,
they're
but
gonna
that's as far as
Yeah,
it's gonna
they're
go.
gonna holler.
They're gonna
Okay,
holler.
and that's it. We got in my neighborhood, or they've got they're housing thousands of convicted women, thousands of convicted men.
Do you think that's a justifiable claim against people who don't want prisons in the area? Do you think it's justifiable or not?
There's always going to be somebody that doesn't like something. You know what I mean, regardless of what it
But
might
then
be.
it serves a good.
Right.
It serves a good for
But
the
you brought up a
community.
good point. I didn't look at it that way. You brought up a good point where you said that people that are in office, it's probably easily to be elected because you really don't have a big population that's able to vote.
Yeah.
You just have that few that's there. So they probably have long term in office because
Sure.
who's going to go against them? And who's going to move up there to be?
And then this scare tactic, all right, and a lot of that I think is misguided. We've taken, when they come in there for all practical purposes, you've taken the guns and the knives and all that kind of stuff. Not to say that they can't get a hold of something to harm you, okay? But anyway, we're getting off the point here.
I'm going to go back to the point. Now, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was a great move for African Americans. We had never seen that before. That was progress. And whatever they did to crush this intent one way or the other, we were still winners in this country because democracy finally came to black people.
Yeah, but now it's
Yeah.
with that 5-4 decision, it's being eroded.
Oh no, it's
All
not
right.
being eroded.
Sure it is.
Progress, government moves slowly, and people don't move fast. People don't accept things fast. They accept things only slowly. We have made tremendous progress in this country, and we need to recognize that. And we need
But
to
how do you
build
move a
upon the
mountain?
progress.
How do you move a mountain? You chip at it. So this is, I understand what he's saying. What he's telling you is that they're chipping at it. So if I throw a roadblock over here, a roadblock over here, a roadblock over there, eventually I'm going to block the whole mountain and you're
Well-
not going to be able to get to it. So regardless to the progress we did make by these little ploys of different people and tactics, they're not going to be able
Good
to.
point. Good point. But think about all of the people that we have convinced to join us, the rest of the population. The rest of the population is not going to let this backslide because once things are put into law, they generally stay there. And I think that we will get this resolved, whatever the problem is. And I don't know, but if there's something that discourages blacks from going to the poll, through manipulation, I think that will also be corrected.
Well, I hope so. I hope that, like I said, I hope they restore Section 4. That took all the guts out of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Do you realize, prior to 1965, in some cases, women couldn't vote. All right, African Americans could not vote. Other white poor women could not vote. Okay.
The white man has always had the advantage. Now,
Right.
don't try to run that.
Well, this shit is coming to an end. Mr. Haddon.
But trying to bring them, sweep them into our discussion. Let's
It's
keep
got
it
to
like
be.
it
It's
is.
got to be. Tell
Because
it like, tell the history.
It was
historical.
unfair to Black Americans.
You
period.
got to tell the
The
historical.
women had the right to vote. They got it in 1921.
You got to tell the historical truth
I am.
here. All right.
I'm telling the
You gotta go
historical truth, guys.
You got to go back into history.
Only Trump can make this right.
Yeah. Well, Trump is an idiot. Okay. Trump is an idiot, in my opinion. Okay. And I certainly hope he does not win.
We're not speaking that. We're not
nothing.
speaking that at all. We're
Right.
going to let him take his toys and go home.
Exactly. Him and his
Entourage.
Family.
Yes.
All right. So anyway, I'm not spending any more time on Trump. Okay.
I'm
All
sorry.
right. I'm voting for Hillary Clinton.
I'm with her.
Does she have issues? Of course.
Of course.
Who doesn't? All right. Who doesn't? And I think we're spending too much time on that child molester. And liar. But anyway, what about how do we get that changed? Back to and include Section 4. All right. What's it going to take?
It's going to take the people of the United States to do that. It's going to take the people of North Carolina and all those other places, not segments, not special interests. Forget it. It's not going to change that way.
Right.
You got to convince the people. And the people don't always look like we do. They look like others.
Right.
And those are the people that we have to set up these conversations with to get that
And
done.
that's why this election is so important because this president will nominate, what is it, three, possibly
That's
three,
it. Mm-hmm.
three Supreme Court justices. So that means that we have to make sure that whoever is the president, we have to make sure that they understand the issues, the real issues, not just up until the election day, but after the election day, so that we're able to move forward on taking care of these issues because this needs to be handled.
Yes. Good point.
And let's make this a law, not just an act. I think it should be a law so that we won't have this discussion, you know what I mean, 10, 15, 20 years from now.
We're not going to have it by the end. When 2050 comes, there's a tremendous balance shift where people of color will be the arithmetic and political majority of the political system. But it's going to change eventually anyway. We will have a transformation or a climax in which all of these things will fall away and something new will rise.
Well, let's hope so, Mr. Henry. Let's
Thank
hope
you.
So. And again,
Let's go on to a good discussion.
I'm voting for
Trump.
Hillary Clinton, the President of the United States of America. Okay, she's the best choice. With that, let's change gears. Let's talk about what do you think about recently come to the nation's attention about the preventing voters from taking pictures of their ballots? That's become a mainstream question. Who cares if you go in the voting booth and you do a selfie?
I think the reason why is because they found actual cases where people were voting for Hillary, but when it was tabulated, it went for Trump. So it flipped. So that's why people were taking pictures of their ballot to make sure that it was accurate. So if they go back and they check, they can see, because if they can show that there's enough cases, they'll have to test it to see and make sure that they're accurate votes, because they have to do a poll, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Henry? They have to do a poll if it's like a lot of problems or whatever. So that's why they started taking pictures. Now, I didn't know of any rule or law that says you can't take a picture, because, you know, the pictures are new, because this is new because of our, you know, technology. I didn't realize that you can't take a picture, because where does it say you can't take a picture?
Okay, also too, if you in the voting booth, all right, and you take a selfie, all right, so what? It's not went through the machine, because if it goes through the machine, it's over with. You can't go in there and pull your ballot out and take a picture, right?
Right.
So I think this is a whole lot to do about nothing.
But I think it's because they know that these can turn into cases. Because if you get enough people who've taken pictures with their ballot, and then when they go and check the record, if their record is not accurate or what the picture shows, they have a reason to go and test that whole site. That's why people are doing it. And that's why they're making it outlaw, because they don't want them to have a valid point, because in case something comes up.
Well, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals overturned the federal judge order preventing voters from taking pictures of their ballots. So, according to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, that's null and void.
Yeah, we've never had a
want.
law that it says that you can't talk while you're in the booth.
Right.
I do know that you're not supposed to be talking, because they think you might be influencing other people. But I don't. Like I said, it's too new. The cameras are too new. All of this is new. We don't have anything to address that.
Exactly.
Am I right, Henry?
What are your thoughts?
Well, you know, I'm going to go along with Jackie. It looks like she has been studying the homework. And I have a challenge here. Normally she's a challenge for me, but here I think that she's done her homework. I don't think that you should really be able to take pictures of the ballot. It's just another thing for people to gripe about: voter intimidation, voter fraud, using electronic gear to do all kind of things. And there are people who can do that. They can transform the American voting process into something that's that would characterize our voting system as unproductive and as fraud, tampered possibilities.
But why would they just grab that out of the hat? Because it has happened.
Well,
do you remember
this is what they want to do? They want to clean up
the Chad?
perception
Remember,
that,
it was pregnant Chad. It was punch Chad.
well,
remember all that?
Yeah, I've worked on those.
But we still haven't gotten that straightened out, because
well, they're working on it. You know, we live in a very complex world electronically, and things do happen. I mean, they call it something else, four-letter words, but it does happen, and they're working on that. You guys have to give them
It's been
an
8 years.
opportunity to work that out.
No, it's been 16 years.
But this voter fraud, voter intimidation and stuff is tearing up the confidence that we have in the American political system.
Well, what do you think it's doing to the people that it affects? So my point
But
is,
that's
it's
my
been
point.
it's been 16 years, because that was the Bush versus Gore. So this is a part where they still have problems in Florida. What did they have during the primary? Problems in Florida.
Do you
this
believe
is
that those
16.
problems exist? Have you ever had any incident with the problem?
The pregnant
No,
Chad.
you haven't.
I don't even live there, and I know about the pregnant
Yeah,
Chad,
but
the
have
punch
you had an
Chad.
incident where this has happened? Do you know of an incident
In
that this has
Michigan?
happened? Yes.
I don't have an incident, because
Then
Michigan is
then we
not.
can't talk about it.
Yes,
Sure
I
we
can
can.
talk
You have
about it.
absolutely
Because
no
they-
proof, no
Sure,
evidence.
we do. Sure.
So I have to
This
touch
is
it to
all
be able to
concocted by-
connect with it. I gotta touch it
Yeah.
to connect with it.
No, but you want to improve the American political system so it becomes better. You must drive it to the
But
point
what
where
is the first step to understanding there's a problem? To admit that there is a problem. So if we don't admit that there's a problem, we can't fix
we
it.
have admitted that there were chads, and they have worked that
You
over
just
and over
had
and over
problems
for
in the
16
primary.
years.
But you just had problems in the primary again
Where?
in Florida.
Coming from what source? What was the source of the problem?
They had They just found it was a lady that was just in
One person. Okay, go ahead.
wait.
This is a
She
statistical weighted average.
I don't
that
care what you say.
convinces you
It's
that
proof. It's proof.
This is fraud.
They found ballots in the closet.
Yes.
She put them in the closet.
Okay.
If she wasn't, if they didn't find out what she done, what would have happened to all those votes? This is still happening in 2016, so you can't just write it off as though we fixed it.
You must not write it off.
But we need to deal with it.
But you must not proclaim something that does not exist.
It exists.
You must not proclaim that there's fraud when you have no evidence.
So
Or
how much
voter
more evidence do I
intimidation.
need? Open up the closet and let them fall on the floor. How much more evidence do I need?
No, I say that was a mistake. Okay, but
You mistakenly took instead of putting them in the machine, you mistakenly put them in the
I
closet.
don't know what the motive was. I'm
Right,
sorry.
you weren't even. I mean, you don't even know the case, but you're
don't
defending
know.
it. You're just like Trump.
Yeah.
You don't really know the information,
I'm like
but
the
you'll.
American people who believe in the American system of government.
Make
Because
America
without
great
people
again.
like me, it would disappear.
Make America great again.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Close your eyes to what's
But
happening.
you guys know that, and we should, black people, of all people, should believe in the Constitution because
You're
that's
right,
the only
because
thing
they
that
didn't enslave us. They didn't do anything to us to make us angry. You're right.
You
We should be the happiest people that were brought here on a boat. You're right.
You know,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wasn't smiling.
I'm sorry.
And worked for 500
I'm
years
sorry.
for free.
The
Okay,
smoking,
we're real
I'm
happy.
sorry, the smoking gun
We're
did
real
not let
happy.
me have my say.
and our women brutalized and raped. All right, throughout
Kunta,
history.
No, they
Beat
were
so bad
property.
he couldn't
How
even remember
could
his
you
name.
rape somebody that's property?
You know what I mean?
What did you say? Rape somebody that's property.
Yeah, that's what you heard.
That's what they did. That's what they did. Not just here in America.
Oh, I'm
Get it
sorry.
right.
I wasn't
Get it right.
appreciative of
You
that.
get it right.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I just need to say this about we, the people, the black people as well. We need to clean up our voting system so that democracy will survive. We can't continue to survive this way.
Well, how do
People
you
are
stop it?
losing
You keep-
confidence in the system.
Well,
We would probably be, maybe democracy has come to its limitation. It can't function with so many people making decisions and that are skeptical and curious.
Well, maybe that's the intent. All right. Put a whole bunch of foolishness up there.
By
all
whom?
right?
It has to be
By
driven
the
by
powers
something.
that be.
That would be the people.
News media, politicians. All right. Talk show hosts. Me not included. All right. I don't put up barriers, to issues. I want to talk about them and get them out there. All right. Get them out there and let people decide, make up their own decisions. You know.
But
what I
you
mean?
guys have made a great statement, and I appreciate what you did.
With
But
that,
it was
though-
not convincing enough to convince me that there's something wrong.
With that, we must bring this segment, this show to a close. I want to thank our millions of viewers worldwide and my very talented co-hosts and our very talented technical staff. This is Ronald Berry Robinson and friends saying until next time, stay focused.